Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm reacting to a real life in brackets animated story because I don't think they're ever real. So this one has called I've been hiding a baby from my boyfriend for years. So I think this is gonna be pretty interesting. So let's just get into this. So let's unpause the video.
Now, before I start this story, I need you to know that I'm 99% sure I'm cursed. My life has been a train wreck since the beginning, and even before that, my ancestors' lives were horrible. Don't believe me? Hear me out. My mom died when I was born after delivery complications, so I came into this world without having a mom. From there on out, it was my dad and my dad is not the warm and friendly type. Luckily, my grandparents lived next door growing up, so I got to spend a lot of time with them while my dad was at work. My grandma was sweet, and my father was a wild guy. He was always watching alien stuff and talking to me about conspiracy theories. One night, he even ran next door to wake me up because he thought he saw a UFO in the sky. As a kid,
are you a normal person if you're gonna run into your granddaughter's room, splash her with your water, and just say that you saw a UFO in air from your window? Is this normal now? Let's just continue.
I thought it was cute, and I was lucky to have them, especially once my dad started misbehaving. By the time I was about 12, my dad was spending all of his time out at night. He came home smelling terrible and completely out of it from partying and gambling. It started to reach a point where we barely had any money. My dad sent me to school with nothing but a container of applesauce every day. Those few years were rough. I was constantly at my grandparents' house, and that's when I started to notice my grandfather wasn't doing well. His mind was all over the place, and I started to think he had Alzheimer's. He started talking about
Imagine if he thought that aliens washed his brain out, and that's why he had these problems. That would be just crazy, and like I do believe in that kind of stuff, sort of. I don't know. I think that aliens are real, but I don't think that there are or they had any contact with us yet. So let's just continue.
the people coming to get him, and the end of the world is coming. It was really unsettling.
So
My grandmother even put a lock on the door so he couldn't leave. Even with that uncomfortable atmosphere at their house, I was happy to be there, but that happiness was short-lived. On the way to the doctor's appointment, my grandmother and grandfather got into a horrible car accident, and they
oh
both
my
died.
god,
My only safe place to go.
like the only hope for this girl just died because she was laying over her grandparents because her dad was almost crazy. He was drinking all the time and he had problems, and now it's gone. That's so sad, but on the other hand, I don't know. On the other hand, there's no excuse of me like not saying that because I have never experienced something like that. Technically I have, but that's whole another story. I'm not gonna talk about that right now, so I'm just gonna say that the hope for this girl is dead right now. So let's continue.
Instantly gone. Crushed. I had to go and help clean out their house. I opened the closet in my grandfather's room, and I was not prepared for what I was about to see. The closet was lined with supplies for the end of the world, and a bunch of weird propaganda posters. But even creepier, there was a painting in the center of the wall, and it looked like it was the end of the world. There were demons and fire and people on horses. I shivered and picked it up, terrified. I knew my grandfather was creepy, but I didn't know he was that insane. As I was throwing the painting out of the house, My fingers sunk through the back of the frame, ripping it. Through the hole, I could see that something was tucked in the back. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't explore any further. I would have just let it be, and my life would be a lot better now. But at the time, I didn't see the
Something
risk.
crappy is
I
gonna
pulled an
happen.
envelope out of the back of the painting. There was a note inside of the envelope. It read, "For my granddaughter, I love you so much." That wasn't all that was in the envelope. There was an old skeleton key and the deed to a property. I recognized the road name and realized it was a huge old farmhouse on the far side of town. Why had my grandparents owned that property? And why had they never used it? That night, I decided to talk to my dad about it. Unfortunately for me,
Bad
he had been
idea.
drinking way too much. When I told him about the property, he grabbed me by the front of my shirt and told me I wasn't allowed to ever go there. It felt like something out of a horror movie, but it wasn't, I promise. So, I knew I had to go see the building. So I called my best friend, Liam, and invited him to go with me. I had a
That's
crush on
never a
Liam
good
for a
idea.
long time, and I felt safe with him. So I figured he'd be perfect. But when we arrived at the property, I was very disappointed. It wasn't just a farmhouse. It was miles and miles of farmland, all overgrown and tangled. But when we got into the house, it was like a mansion
It
inside.
looks
Even though the
haunted.
furniture was antique, it was absolutely spotless, like someone had been cleaning it all this time. The thought scared me,
Yeah,
but I
ghost
was so
snakes.
excited to have a safe place to hang out that I didn't even care. Liam and I got to work exploring the whole house. I sat down on the bed, and the moment I did, Liam started kissing me. When I went home that night, I tried
It
to explain
is
to my dad that
haunted.
the house belonged to us now, and he laughed in my face. He was in that state again, and he started to say some really cruel things to me. When I asked him to stop, he went so far as to blame me for my mother's death. That was the final straw. With him chasing after me and yelling, I stormed out of the house and got...
Well, technically, I'm not saying anything weird, but technically it is her fault. But you should never treat your daughter or son or whatever she is, never tell her that she's the reason why someone died, like grandparents or mother, especially mother, because it's gonna hurt them so much. And whatever's gonna happen, it's not gonna be good, and it's gonna affect you as well. But this could be like a reason why this is happening right now in the story, because this girl who animates these stories loves to overestimate everything, and as I said, nothing is real in these stories. So let's continue.
got in the car. I drove off as fast as I could, with him running after me, a bottle in hand. Tears streamed down my face. How had my dad gotten so terrible? He didn't even feel like my dad anymore. I sat outside the farmhouse. In the dark, it was terrifying. I called Liam to come join me for the night. I tried to tell myself this was a really good thing. Him and I could live here together like a couple. We'd have total freedom, a bed to share. Liam showed up in record time, and we went up to the master bedroom to go to bed. I made sure to turn every light in the house on.
This is a bad idea because, as I said, this house looks haunted, and there's no way that her crush just randomly liked her all of a sudden and just kissed her. So you're moving in now, and you're moving in the same bedroom. You're not boyfriend or girlfriend or anything. Come on, man. Let's continue.
There was no way I was getting spooked by anything. Next day, Liam
Yeah,
decided he
sure.
wanted to throw a massive party, and I agreed because I wanted to seem cool. I knew I had to keep him happy because if I didn't and he left me, I'd be stuck in this house all by myself. And let me tell you, that massive party would come back to bite me. What was supposed to be 5 to 10 people turned into a 100-person rager. People were hanging off the balcony, people were drinking in the kitchen, people were running through the halls. It was out of control. I felt totally out of place. I started to panic. What if someone called the police?
I bet that there's loud noises, and I said that this house looked haunted. There's gonna be a soul in there, and it's gonna get angry and eat all of them. This is a material for haunted story, like the films, horror films. Come on, man, this is just ridiculous right now. Let's just continue.
On us. I I started running through the house, trying to find Liam to get the party shut down. That's when I saw him leaning against the deck with his back turned to me. When I opened the door to the deck, my jaw
He's cheating.
dropped. Liam was making out with some random girl. I didn't know what to do, so I screamed. That went about as well as you could expect. Liam jumped back and
Not well at
falling
all.
down the stairs with a bang.
Oh my god,
I
he
watched
fell.
his body roll down the steps, and for a minute, I almost felt vindicated. Then he started grabbing his arm and screaming. His arm looked twisted, definitely
my
broken.
God.
The homewrecker who was making out with him ran off the second he was in pain. Even though I was furious, I dragged him into the car to drive him to the hospital. He tried apologizing, but I didn't want to hear it. What was he going to say? He tripped and fell against her face. On the drive back home, I couldn't even look at Liam. He promised me it would never happen again. If it was normal
Everyone
conditions,
says that.
I would have dumped him easily. But now, I didn't want to stay in a murder house by myself. But Liam's behavior didn't stop there. Soon he was controlling everything I did. He made me put the home in his name because he said he was better with money. I think he understood the power he had over me. He told me it was my job to clean the house, my job to cook the meals, and my job to take care of him. When I talked about wanting to work, he shut me down. I was so afraid of him leaving, I started doing whatever he said.
This
We
guy
were
is
having
just a
parties
fool.
all the time. It was like every single night there were people over. Liam was always off talking to other people, and when I confronted him about it, he was mean. Things went on like that for about a year. I felt like I was
This is the worst situation, and it's her own fault that she is in this situation. It's just ridiculous right now, because she could just leave or ask him to leave, and she could stay in there. I said the house was haunted, that's why he acts like that. Or maybe he's just a jerk, like some other people are, and it's not a haunted house. We have only two theories. Or he's a mad person and sometimes he's jerk, sometimes he's not and he's sweet. So, let's continue.
going insane being trapped in this creepy house by myself. While Liam was at work, he made me give him my phone, so I had to sit all by myself in the haunted building. Around that time, I started feeling terrible. I was dizzy all the time and nauseous. I felt like I was
She's
in
pregnant.
fog, trying to understand everything. Then one of the worst days of my life happened. I woke up with a pounding headache. The world was a blur, and when I walked into the hallway, I fell onto the ground and fainted. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed with a mask on my face and tubes in my arms. I looked around for Liam, but he was nowhere to be seen. A doctor came in and told me the news. I had carbon monoxide poisoning. I couldn't believe it. Apparently, an appliance in our kitchen had been leaking for months.
Right now, I
And
don't
that's
know.
the reason I was having hallucinations and feeling sick all the time. It was such
Right now, I don't know why she's telling this story, because the name clearly says I'm hiding my baby from my boyfriend for years, and there's nothing happening like that. And already we are more than halfway through the video, so I don't know how that's.
a relief. For a minute, I thought my life might be better, but when I went back home, I knew it wasn't true. It wasn't just the carbon monoxide that was bothering me. It was Liam. About a year after my hospital stay, things were only worse. I was like a slave to Liam, and whenever I told him I wasn't happy, he would overwhelm me with gifts. He'd give me an iPhone, a new gaming system, new clothes, and for a day or two, things would be good. But soon, things were terrible again. He was so controlling with my money and my contact with other people. Then I realized something else was wrong with me. My period was late. I was so afraid of how Liam would react that I knew I couldn't tell him. Because I didn't have any money of my own or a car to drive, I snuck out one day after Liam left for work and sold my watch at a pawn shop. I bought a pregnancy test with the money and went back home to take it. It was positive, and my heart broke. I had no way to support a child by myself. My dad hated me. My boyfriend kept all our money and ran the house. What was I supposed to do? I took a few days to figure out what my plan was.
I'm not
And that's
even
when
married.
Liam came out of the bathroom holding the test. He started screaming at me, asking why I hadn't told him. I was so afraid I started to cry. I came up with the only lie I could think of. I was planning to surprise him with a special dinner. He calmed down almost immediately. Over the next few few days, I tried to talk him into letting me get a job so I could help get money for the baby. And he just snapped at me. "I make enough money for us." Before I knew it, I was ready to have the baby. I begged Liam to leave my phone at home so I could call him if anything happened, but he refused. My worst fear became a reality. I went into labor while Liam was at work. I sat in the bathtub crying and trying to control my breathing. I had felt alone in this house for so long, and this was no different. I thought about how different my life would be if my grandparents were still alive. I could live with them. I could have left Liam a long time ago. After a lot of screaming and pain and terror, my baby girl was born. I held her in my arms, all alone. For the first time in weeks, I felt love, and then I felt scared. I couldn't raise a daughter with Liam nearby. I had to get away from him somehow, and I had to be sneaky. I decided to name my girl Hope. I realized that giving up Liam also meant giving up the house. Looking back, I realized him making me change the title to his name was all about...
I don't know why. It's her house. I just can't read this story.
controlling me. When Liam came home, he found me still in the bathtub. He was shocked, but he didn't apologize or even ask if I was okay. Every day, when he left for work, I would walk the miles to town and sell things at the pawn shop. I sold gaming systems, antiques from the house, even my own clothes. It took me about 2 years, but the money started to add up. I was just about ready to run away when the unthinkable happened. Liam found my money stash hidden in the ceiling.
Oh no.
Out on me. I tried to lie and say it wasn't mine, and then he really went off. He told me he was the only one who was ever going to love me, and that if I thought I could leave with his daughter, I was insane. He started throwing things around the room. I ran with Hope into the bedroom and slammed the door behind me. He reminded me that the house was his, and he was the only one with a job. He said
not your
he
house.
would get custody of my daughter.
It's her
I couldn't
house.
take it. I knew I couldn't live here anymore. I looked for something, anything that I could sell, but all that was in my room was the stupid painting that got me into this mess. I grabbed the painting and managed to jump off the balcony with my daughter on my back. I ran to the road and could hear Liam slam the door behind me, running after me. I waved my arms like crazy, hoping a car would come, and to my shock, a teenage girl let me in her car. I jumped in just as Liam tried to grab me, and we took off. She asked if she could help me, but I told her to just drop me off at the pawn shop. I walked in with nothing but the painting. In tears, I asked the man how much he would buy it for. His face went ghost white. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. I shook my head no, and he pulled up a news article on his phone. The painting was by a famous religious leader and had gone missing decades ago. The craziest part, it was worth $10 million.
Oh my
My
God.
jaw hit the floor. The pawn shop
I
owner
said, this
negotiated
is
with
not
me and
real.
bought it. To this day, I still can't believe it. I went from a poor, abused woman to a millionaire in a matter of minutes. With the money, I went and bought my own house, a large house with a nice yard. I also started my own shelter for people in abusive relationships, and my work there is fulfilling. Hope is being raised in a healthy, safe environment, and I have sole custody. The craziest part is, Liam's in jail now. He went on to hurt another person he dated. And it scares me a lot that if I stayed, that would have been me. This experience taught me a lot about power and healthy relationships, but it also taught me something else. My grandpa was not crazy after all.
So, she was not hiding the baby from her boyfriend, and all this was a lie. So that's ended, and I don't believe even one piece of this. Like, yeah, sure, it could be in an abusive relationship, and you can have a baby, and they can run away from him, but I don't know, this is just haunted painting and stuff. It's just too much. So guys, I'm gonna end this video right here, and let me know in the comments, do you like reaction videos more or gaming videos? I was trying to go live as well, but it did not work out. So if you comment down below that you want me to go live, I will, and I will fix all the issues. So bye guys.